welcome to Off Screen. I'm Van Connor.
And I'm Zehra Phelan.
And you're not Bex. What are you doing here, Zehra? You've changed.
Yes, well, I thought you needed a bit of new blood.
Well, she's on holiday for the week. In fact, she's on holiday for 2 weeks. So this is going to be an interesting dynamic because it's been so long since we had anyone else on the show. So it's I'm glad it's you, Zehra. I am. But I'm very sorry though that we're going to talk about the first film that we are this week because we've got to cover the new releases. And our first one is a theatrical release, and the Darwin Awards. They have the Darwin Awards every year, which are like reserved for people who died particularly stupid deaths. Have you seen these?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Right. I actually think they should open up a special category this year, special award in the Darwin Awards this year for people who died of the coronavirus that they caught in a cinema, specifically going out to see New Mutants, which of course opens today on Friday the 4th of September. I keep saying August. I'm terrible. Months don't mean anything in COVID land, do they? September the 4th. This is the long awaited finale to the X-Men franchise. This is the movie that was, I think, due for reshoots when Disney bought Fox. And then we had all the palaver. That merger went on for about a year. The reshoots never happened. I think the reshoots were intended to capitalize on the success of It, which at the time this was completed the first time was still relatively new. So this was a while ago. This was like 2017. It is loosely based on the X-Men comics from the 80s of the same name. It follows a group of teenage X-Men characters who in this case are relegated to an asylum, basically to be treated for their recently emerged mutant abilities. They are in fact, as the title cleverly suggests, New Mutants. So yeah, they put a lot of thought into that one. Anyway, they're in the asylum. All's not quite what it seems to be. It's kind of like a PG-13 style horror movie kind of a setup. Looks a lot like TV's Legion, if you ever saw that with Dan Stevens, which was also, funnily enough, an X-Men spin-off. And before long, malevolent forces are out to get them. Here's the clip.
Take Danny to a safe place, and I'll take care of this bear. What are you going to do? I'm going to play with them. Get her out of here.
Are you crazy? That thing will kill you.
He's right, it's magic. So am I.
Right, as my dear friend John Colston will attest, one of my bugbears in any movie ever is a technique that began with Keanu Reeves in the movie 47 Ronin, and we refer to it as, by the way, I'm magic. It's when a character just suddenly introduces late in the game that they have magical abilities. This movie literally does that.
Well, just in case audiences may be a little bit stupid going into watching this, yeah, you need it spelled out for you.
You wouldn't mind either, but her magic powers seem to extend literally to her right arm turning into Sills from the movie Species, complete with a lightsaber and the ability to portal anywhere she wants, which is made funnier by the fact that at the end of this movie they complain that they're 20 miles away from anywhere, like civilization, and shall we try and get there? Will we make it? You start thinking, dude, two of you can fly and one of you can open portals. I can tell how much effort went into the writing of this. This is a shambles. It really does feel like a film. It feels like that first draft of a film that needs the reshoot, which is exactly what it is, if we're being honest. Were you even vaguely excited about seeing this?
No, I've not actually seen this yet. I must admit, though, from the trailer, that I was enjoying that horror angle that it was showing. But after, obviously, listening to you, it's like, really?
We've had some rants. Actually, the weirdest thing I can compare it to is because it uses this single location, it uses the asylum location, and it's so drab and miserable looking. The thing I kept thinking about was the movie Glass. You remember how we were all really excited about Glass? Yeah. And it just turned out to be this movie about three dudes in an asylum together, like no one else around. It was the weirdest thing. Apparently, this cost $80 million. Now, that's staggering to me, given that the first Deadpool movie cost $58 and looks like an absolute epic at the side of what can only really be described here as feeling an awful lot like a shoddy made-for-the-Fox network TV pilot. Anya Taylor-Joy is absolutely agonizing to sit through in this movie. She really needs to issue her agent a new remit other than please get me roles that require me to have resting bitch face and a pout.
But that's
that just seems
her
to be
normal
her whole
face.
thing.
It is. That's her normal
It
face.
does.
And everyone's lapping it up.
Yeah, it seems to be. It seems to be. I mean, I don't think they'll lap the film because I think anyone will come away from this going, so this is basically like 5 kids kind of whining about their problems, and then at the very end for like 6 minutes there's an X-Men movie. It's the weirdest combination. Not to mention, I'm sorry, but as far as plot twists go, imagine, right, it's one of the weakest you've ever seen. Imagine if you had a movie in which a character wore literally a swastika on there as a brooch, and then the twist was they're a Nazi. It's that level of twist. And you go, okay, now I'm aware that only works on people who've read comic books, but there's a fair few of those the last time I checked. The performances are okay, I guess. I mean, you've got the kid from Stranger Things in there who's playing Sam Good. Charlie Heaton, I think his name is. He's British, isn't he? Yeah, he's like okay, I guess, with this sort of gee shucks Kentucky kind of accent, you know. And then you've got Maisie Williams, who, because of how long ago this was filmed, is still about 12 at that point. And if you watch Game of Thrones, you know that she grew up quick. And this had to have been filmed before the end of Game of Thrones, which was 2 years ago, and terrible, I might add. And she's doing this Scottish accent, which is equally dreadful. It's just not very good. Every time they introduce, new, supposedly captivating elements, they just come across as weak, dialed-in sort of television beats. And that's before you get to the fact that Anya Taylor-Joy's character seems to consist entirely of racial stereotypes that she flings out at every single one of her cast members, all of which seem to have been devised as some sort of mechanism to generate controversy around. It is an awful, awful film.
No, to me, it just sounds like the studio have just had enough of this talk about it and constant supposed reshoots and just tried to get it out there as like, get rid of this, we don't need this rubbish anymore.
There is. I mean, put it this way, this film is so badly put together that its set design literally consists of the complete Buffy box set. Oh. And I'm not even making that up. And I'm enough of a nerd to know that the characters don't even watch it in order. That's how badly put together this is. It's for me, it's charitably a 2-star film. The X-Men fan in me would give this like no stars because I think it's a pathetic effort. You have seen this a dozen times, and every single one of those dozen times, you've seen it done better. The only reason this wasn't dumped to Disney Plus is apparently because there was a contractual agreement in the Disney Fox merger that required this to have a theatrical release. Now, it's amazing that seems to have been strangely buried, but I remember reading that, and yeah, it makes an awful lot of sense given the absolute debacle this turned out to be. I don't know what kind of breakfast was put on at the week of release critics show, which strangely enough took place 4 days after the public previews, but that should tell you an awful lot about the contrarian opinions coming out in some reviews. I would give this the lowest possible ranking I could. Like I say, charitably 2, and that's only because it's been such a struggle to get here. I almost respect it for at least sticking the landing and actually reaching cinemas.
Hasn't Josh Boone actually gone into hiding as well?
Yeah, he has deleted Instagram, which is kind of fascinating because it took 2 decades of sexual assault allegations against Bryan Singer for him to remove his Twitter account. And Brett Ratner actually outright bragged about the things he did to Olivia Munn, and all he did was set his Twitter account to private. So I think Josh Boone's going to overkill a bit, to be honest. But right, on to Mulan, which is way, way better. We're overrunning for time, so we're going to cram this in as quick as we can. Mulan, which we've both seen. This is a new movie. This is Disney's live-action adaptation of the 1998 animated classic?
98, yeah.
98. So this one comes with a certain amount of much-needed hype and expectation. It's being put to Disney Plus Premier Access from today, from Friday the 4th. So the idea is you pay £30, $29.99, and you get to own this for, life, but this is only an exclusive for, I think, 2 months. Is it until November 5th, and then it's on Disney Plus regular from December 4th. So, it might save you some money if you otherwise plan to take the kids to the cinema. This stars Yafei Liu as the, eponymous Mulan. She is the young Chinese maiden who disguises herself as a male warrior in order to defend her family's honor and stand in for her father during conscription into the war. And here comes the clip of basically the point that it's about to jump off anytime Donnie Yen turns up.
Need a hand, little man?
Insult me again, and you'll taste the tip of my blade.
Lower your sword.
What?
I'm your commanding officer. Fighting will not be tolerated, am I clear?
Yes, Commander.
With your voice, soldier.
Yes, Commander.
What is your name?
Hua Jun, Commander.
Is this your family sword?
It belongs to my father, Hua Zhou.
Fall in line.
I am one with the Force is with me. God, I love Donnie Yen. Who doesn't love Donnie Yen? He's such a badass.
He's such a badass. And that clip just doesn't do the film justice, I've got to say that.
It doesn't. A surprising lack of clips of Mulan. Now, you're with me, aren't you, that this is actually really, really good?
Yeah, I absolutely love this. And I'm ashamed to say I've not seen the animated feature. So I was actually pleasantly surprised at how good this is.
Well, that's it. I mean, visually, it's extraordinary. It's colourful. It's vibrant. It's incredibly striking. I think we said this when we watched it. This would make a better IMAX presentation than Tenet, which is really saying something. And there's this gorgeous musical arrangement from Harry Gregson Williams as well that really makes it. And of course, it gets to fulfill one of my favourite tropes in any movie, which is teapots. Every time someone raids loot in one of these movies, why is the loot always gold teapot? Why is it teapots? And not one guy ever turns around and says, no, thanks, Chief. I've already got enough teapots. Thank you. I'm just here for the vengeance.
Well, teapots, they're a valuable asset.
They clearly were in ancient China. I think it's, of all the Disney live-action movies, it's easily the least child-friendly, in a good way. It has its heart in absolutely the right place. It's an incredible production design. There's a cameo towards the end of this that I think anyone who knows the original knows has to come. I'm not talking about Eddie Murphy, by the way. That character actually is missing, because isn't he a singing dragon? He's missing entirely. Also, Jet Li is in this movie, and as you can attest, I did not recognize him for the entirety of this movie. I tell you who I did mention, did spot though, and I really missed him in movies. Jason Scott Lee as one of the villains. How much have we missed Jason Scott Lee in movies?
Oh, massively. I didn't even recognise him myself. I was like, oh my God, when did he get so old?
But no, I thought this was a really impressive, really solid one of these live-action adaptations. I think I would go so far as to say it's in the top 3 for me. I still think that Lion King and Jungle... mind you, I still think Jungle Book is the best one. I will go out on a limb for Cinderella as well. I would give this the 3rd spot for me.
Oh, really? I think I'd give it the top spot at the moment.
You would give this one top, huh?
Yeah. I was fell that much in love with it. And I think it's also, it has those sexist undertones to it, but that's the point. That's the point of this film. Yeah. It's this young girl wanting to be a warrior. She's not allowed to. She's a girl. But I mean, I think Disney have actually they're pretty on point with that, with telling the stories from the female point of view. I think they
generally speaking, aren't they? Disney are the first. Yeah, that's it. They are the original company for that, aren't they? Because the Disney princess trope. All right, it's a little bit. Their version of it got a little bit outdated at one point, but they've clawed it back. They've clawed it back, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. And also, you mentioned about the Chinese arpats in there.
Yes, there is an actor whose name I forget who plays her sort of sidekick / love interest / best friend, who really does sort of play like the Chinese arpats, doesn't he?
Yeah, and once you say that and you see it, you can't unsee it. That's it. It's stuck there.
You really can't. So would you recommend Mulan, would you think? Would you think it's worth the $29.99 uplift for this one?
See, that really, really pains me to say this, but yes, I'm not a massive fan of having to pay that much extra to see a film. I'd rather see it on the big screen.
You really wanted to not like this just because of that uplift, didn't you? And yet you couldn't help yourself.
I know. It's like, no!
Well, I say it's out on Disney Plus Premier Access for $29.99 from today, Friday, the 4th of September. It's a must for teapot enthusiasts everywhere. Do check it out. We thought it was great. Welcome back to Off Screen, and well, since you're still not supposed to be outside, we're going to give you some excuses to actually enjoy being on that couch and watching some movies on Freeview for the next 7 days. So we're going to start with Saturday through Monday, and of course, what's better than a good laugh on a Saturday night? And I don't know if you've seen this recently, Zehra. Saturday night, 9 p.m, ITV2, one of, I think, the comedies of the 21st century. It's Shaun of the Dead. Come on, how big a fan are you?
I'm not.
You're not?
No.
That was an anticlimax. Thanks for that.
I hate this film. I hate the Cornetto trilogy.
How can you hate Shaun of the... Okay, well, fine. If you hate the trilogy, that's fine. As long as you hate them all, well, I hate the first two equally. I hope you hate the third more than any of them. So, Shaun of the Dead, the first big feature splashy effort from Edgar Wright, Simon Pegg, who co-wrote the movie together. Simon Pegg stars, Edgar Wright directs, also co-stars Peter Serafinowicz, Penelope Winton, Nick Frost. Who's the guy from Black Books I'm thinking of? Who's the guy from Black Books now? Plays Bernard Black. Dylan Moran, that's it. It's going to drive me mad. So this is, of course, a British parody, effectively, of the zombie genre. And although it sounds like the kind of thing you'd be bored to tears of now, believe it or not, this actually opened back in a time when we weren't inundated with zombie fiction. And the idea of a comedy, particularly a British comedy, that parodied, the classics of George Romero, was actually something unique. And it all hinged upon, effectively, the writing and the comedy and the banter between Nick Frost and Simon Pegg. Banter such as, well, how to make an escape plan to weather out the zombie apocalypse. Like this.
Where's safe? Where's familiar? Where can I smoke?
Not to approach anyone suffering from the disorder, even if they are...
Take car, go to Mum's, kill Phil, sorry, grab Liz, go to the Winchester, have a nice cold pint, and wait for all this to blow over.
How's that for a slice of fried gold?
Yeah, boy! It is vital that you stay in your homes, make no attempt to reach loved ones, and avoid all physical contact with the assailants.
Do you believe everything you hear on TV?
Well, I mean, in this day and age, I think most people believe the things they see on TV. But how quotable, though? I mean, even if you don't like the film, it's interesting how much of the film has sort of permeated popular culture to the extent, even in that clip, there's 2 lines of dialogue in that clip. Maybe 3, actually, tell a lie, 3, that are now so quoted so often. So, I mean, like, how's that for a slice of fried gold? My friend Colson says that all the time. Yeah, boy, is my flatmate's catchphrase. And the whole, go to the Winchester, have a pint and wait for this to blow over is a meme that took on a life of its own the minute the coronavirus hit.
It certainly did.
It really did. I think it is a stone cold classic. It's one of those films I think was very overplayed early on. Definitely, you need a wide window, I think, now before you go back and see it. But I think most people haven't seen it in so long now that it's a good point to revisit. I still prefer Hot Fuzz. I think Hot Fuzz is a stronger film, but I'm aware that I am definitely in the minority on this one. Out of interest, where do you stand? Hot Fuzz or Shaun of the Dead? Which do you prefer?
Oh God, it'll have to be Hot Fuzz. I can't. I think Shaun of the Dead was the first film that made me hate the zombie genre.
And it had barely been revived at that point.
Exactly.
No, this is the really interesting thing because I had to explain to the lady of my life who has never seen Shaun of the Dead and obviously is an American and has never experienced the British phenomenon around Shaun of the Dead, the term Zomrom-com. Which was invented purely for this film. She thought I was making it up. Like, no, they literally put that on the poster and on the trailer. That is a thing. If you've never seen Shaun of the Dead, do check it out. Evidently, according to Zehra, you will either love it or hate it. But either way, you can find out for yourself, 9 p.m, ITV2 on Saturday night. On to Sunday then. Bit of a Sunday afternoon, kind of a chill film.
Yeah.
That also is kind of a weird modern masterpiece from Jim Carrey. 4:50 on Sony Movies. It's The Truman Show. Now, before I queue up and you absolutely shatter my illusions, what do you think of The Truman Show, Zehra?
I actually love The Truman Show, and it's one of only 2 Jim Carrey films that I do love.
What was the other one?
Man on the Moon.
Oh, Man on the Moon. Okay, fair enough. How can you not love Ace Ventura, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber? That is the best 3-film run any actor has ever had.
We are very different in our sense of humour.
We are very different. We are. Yeah, we definitely are. So that's the thing. Okay, now The Truman Show seems to have taken on an almost mythic status in recent years. People don't just like The Truman Show. People love The Truman Show. I mean, I will run out of fingers and toes if I try counting every friend I have who's really just borderline obsessed by The Truman Show. And there's a lot of nuance been drawn from it. A lot of people have read into the text in ways that you wouldn't think. There's an entire making of, by the way, that is actually set in universe. There is an in-universe making of The Truman Show that was made exclusively for Nickelodeon, and it is still on YouTube. If you've never seen it, I heartily recommend checking it out because it actually expands the world of Truman Burbank. His surname is very telling, by the way. Who is, I think he's an orphaned baby who is effectively adopted by a broadcaster as the subject of the world's first 24-hour all-consuming reality show, as in he is put in a world that is completely staged and built out of cameras. He grows up to be Jim Carrey, and of course starts to suspect one day that his reality may not quite be what he thinks it is.
Let me get you some help, Truman. You're not well.
Why do you want to have a baby with me? You can't stand me.
That's not true. Why don't you let me fix you some of this new Mococo drink? All natural cocoa beans from the upper slopes of Mountain Nicaragua, no artificial sweeteners.
What the hell are you talking about? Who are you talking to?
I've tasted other cocos. This is the best.
What the hell does this have to do with anything? Tell me what's happening!
Now, to be fair, his performance in this is absolutely brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. It's just like he takes this character. It's his very being. It's in every pore of his being.
Absolutely. But I think it's just a really great, really suspenseful movie in itself. I also really like the performance from Ed Harris as Christoph, who's a sort of beret-wearing artiste mastermind who's actually running the Truman Show. And I'd actually forgotten, until I was finding the clip for this, that Paul Giamatti is in this as one of the sort of control booth operators, because obviously the control booth that runs the Truman Show is based in the moon.
Yeah, that's right.
In Truman's world. Genuinely brilliant movie, and one that every time I watch it I get something new out of. I can absolutely see how this has garnered the cult mythic status that it has. If you are a fan, you'll never turn down a chance to revisit, and if you've never seen it, do go on YouTube and check out that in-universe making of as well, which hints at other things as well. That for one thing, they were planning on having Truman go on vacation, and they actually built a set. And they show you like them building the set for where Truman would be taken on vacation and everything like that. It's really interesting. It's really fascinating stuff. Also, you get to know the characters, the supporting characters, a little bit more. Like his best friend became an alcoholic because he was playing an alcoholic, and the only way he could do it convincingly was to become an alcoholic. It's fascinating stuff.
Why have I never seen this?
Something with.
I'm surprised.
Absolutely, check. Go on YouTube. Yeah. I will send you the link. Watch it. It's fascinating stuff. But completely different tone for Monday night, though. Monday, the 7th of September, 9 p.m. Sony Movies. Another stone cold classic of the 90s. It's Face Off, Miss Phelan. Now, how do you feel about Face Off?
I love Face Off as well.
How can you not love Face Off?
Exactly.
It's Travolta v Cage, and it's basically a competition to see who can play the more broad OTT psychopath. And to be fair, I think it comes out in a tie. It is effectively the Tech versus Crim thriller that sees Tech and Crim swap faces effectively, so that the cop is left in prison to rot, and so the cop is the tech/cop is left in prison to rot, while the criminal is out there wearing his face, sleeping with his wife, and abusing his power. And of course, it all builds to that mythic John Woo level of, well, what can you say? It's a face-off.
I don't know what I hate wearing worse. Your face or your body? I mean, I enjoy boning your wife, but, well, let's face it, we both like it better the other way, yes? So why don't we just trade back?
You can't give back what you've taken from me.
Oh, well. Plan B. Let's just kill each other.
It's got slow-mo, it's got doves, it's got Travolta and Cage. What's not to love from a John Woo movie? And of course, the part that I really love about this is for no apparent reason, Nick Cassavetes turns up in it as a sort of expert-level drug dealer. And I'm sort of thinking, why, Nick? Why are you doing this? You're a pretty decent director yourself. Why are you turning up as a goon in a John Woo movie? Can't figure that one out. Brilliant movie, though. I mean, literally starts with an action sequence that ends most films, usually.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like full on in your face from the very word go. I mean, Paramount apparently were talking about giving the film a facelift and redoing it. Sorry.
It couldn't be helped. No, well, I can imagine that. But the thing that gets me is I think when it was going through development, I'm sure it was Schwarzenegger and Stallone, and then it was it Seagal and Van Damme were rumoured at one point? There was Michael Douglas and someone. Except Michael Douglas stayed on as producer because he's still credited as a producer on the film to this day. Fascinating film. I very rarely consider it a sci-fi film, but apparently it is actually classified as a sci-fi action film. It's one of the least sci-fi style action movies you'll ever see, but it's a great John Woo movie. I got to say that.
How do you work that out that it's a sci-fi film? What, because there's a bit of text
That's what it's
where they
listed
have to
as.
swap faces.
That's it, apparently. I can only imagine it played more as a traditional sci-fi film early on in its development. But you know what? The end result is one hell of a movie. I was a big John Woo fan at this point in my life because of what was it called? A Hard Target with Van Damme, Broken Arrow as well. I was a big fan of Broken Arrow, and then Face Off came along, and that was a good run for a filmmaker who would then kind of toss it all away with the Ben Affleck movie Paycheck. But the less we say about, the better. But you know what? Face Off still a Stone Cold classic, and that can be the perfect way to start your week. Monday night, 9 p.m. on Sony Movies. We shall return with the rest of your week. And we're back with more reasons for you to stay on that couch. And, we're going to take you next into darkness for Tuesday, the 8th of September. E4, 9 p.m. is, of course, the second installment of the rebooted J.J. Abrams Star Trek series, known to fans as the Kelvin timeline, because that's a sort of nerd umbrella we put it under. And this is, of course, the second movie that was directed by J.J. Abrams. I think the third one was... Who directs the third? Was it Justin Lin, I think, directs Star Trek Beyond, I think.
Yeah, I can't actually remember off the top of my head.
I think it's Justin Lin. I remember Simon Pegg co-wrote it, because that's why Scotty gets all the good bits in it. But, which is, I'm sure, not intentional at all. So Star Trek Into Darkness, best described by certain writers as effectively Star Trek's take on post 9/11 fear culture, which is a pretty good way to look at it. This sees a terrorist attack on Starfleet bring Captain Kirk and Spock into conflict with a man known only as John Harrison, which at the time this movie was released... John Harrison is played by Benedict Cumberbatch, who at the time this movie was released was basically the biggest star on this planet for like 5 minutes. And the character was shrouded in mystery because it's a J.J. Abrams movie, and who he was a big twist. Now, the thing is, it's been 8 years, so if you don't know the twist by now, on your own head, be it.
Or have you been hiding under a rock?
Who the hell are you?
A remnant of a time long past. Genetically engineered to be superior so as to lead others to peace in a world at war. But we were condemned as criminals, forced into exile. For centuries we slept, hoping when we awoke things would be different.
But as a result of the destruction of Vulcan, your Starfleet began to aggressively search distant quadrants of space. My ship was found adrift. I alone was revived.
I looked up John Harrison. Until a year ago, he didn't exist.
John Harrison was a fiction created the moment I was awoken by your Admiral Marcus to help him advance his cause. A smokescreen to conceal my true identity. My name is Khan.
Now, that line actually got followed up immediately in the, the limited screening that we had with me turning to my friend Dave Walker and shouting the words, right, pay up.
It's pretty obvious, isn't it, really?
Pretty obvious, yeah. We had, because that was the thing, we were all just taking bets on who was going to be, and that's the one was like, okay, pay up, mate, come on. And, do you know what? Good movie, though. I think it's a way better movie than people really treat it as. I think you said yourself that this got a rough ride. The whole series got a rough ride, you said, and I agree with that entirely.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a lot of fun to be had with this series. Even in that clip alone, I think I'm not a big fan. I don't fancy Benedict Cumberbatch, but I got goosebumps just listening to that.
Actually, I heard a comment. I heard a comment on it recently that Into Darkness reads quite well as Old Trek versus New Trek. That because it takes the tropes and story beats from Wrath of Khan and applies it to the new younger crew. Now, I actually think that that's quite clever in how it does that, because what it shows is that certain behavioural traits and certain events are just destined to happen to these characters. There are certain things that they will just do, no matter what the universe, no matter what their upbringing. There are certain things these characters will just do. And particularly in the final 15 minutes of this film, that becomes very apparent to me as the overriding sort of point of the film. But, other than that, it's just a great big violent honking space ride, and I'm a big fan of it. So Tuesday night, 9 p.m. E4. On then to something with a little bit more TNA on 5 Star on Wednesday night. 11:05 on 5 Star. It is, of course, the movie that every teenage boy owned on VHS in the late 90s. It's Wild Things, ladies and gentlemen, starring Kevin Bacon, but most importantly, Denise Richards and Neve Campbell, as this is the story of a rape allegation in a southern Florida high school that gets taken to a whole other level when it begins to unravel a vast conspiracy that the investigating detective, played by Kevin Bacon, discovers involves the would-be accused, played by Matt Dillon, back when we still allowed Matt Dillon to be in movies, and also his accusers themselves. Let's have a clip.
Maybe there's no physical evidence because nothing happened. You want my gut? There it is. I think she's acting. I think she set it up to be alone with him so that he could come on to her. She's upset because he didn't.
Maybe she set it up that way. Maybe not. I mean, if you ask me, the guy never should have had her out there in the first place, period.
Gloria, the line I have on this guy's done half the women in Blue Bay.
That doesn't make him a rapist.
I will say that clip might be the last time in recorded history that anyone ever accused Denise Richards of acting. But you know what? Great movie. And actually, it's aged really well as well. Bill Murray's in this as well. We like to forget that, don't we?
Yeah. I forgot he was in this as well. And going back to you saying every teenage boy had this, I was actually seeing someone at the time, and he was in his mid-20s, and he played it constantly.
Oh, well, I mean, we didn't have internet porn back then, so the VHS of Wild Things was basically, that was the next best thing. But you know what? We can't spoil too much about the plot of Wild Things or why it was so appealing to teenage boys. All I'll say is if you watch it, you'll very quickly discover why. And either way, 11:05, 5 Star, Wednesday night. Let's move on to 10 to 7, 6:50, Film 4, Thursday night. Something a bit more dramatic and a bit more meaningful than Wild Things. It's Suffragette, which is, the story of the suffragette movement as told through the eyes of laundry factory worker Carey Mulligan and her encounter with Emmeline Pankhurst and how this spurred her into moving, into basically joining the movement. Let's have a clip before we get into the meat of it.
Be militant, each of you in your own way. Those of you who can break windows, break them. Those of you who can further attack the sacred idol of property, do so. We have been left with no alternative but to defy this government. If we must go to prison to obtain the vote, let it be the windows of government, not the bodies of women, which shall be broken.
Round the back, Wolf, round the back.
I incite this meeting and all the women in Britain to rebellion.
How long do you think it took them in the discussion stage? I don't even think this reached a casting director, but in the discussion stage to come up with Meryl Streep as Emmeline Pankhurst, I figure that was, 5 seconds and then a coffee break?
Yeah, that's pretty much a given, isn't it, really? And,
I think that was basically it.
And it has a great cast as well, but this is just, it's great what they're trying to do. They're trying to highlight what these women went through back in the day. but it's just all a bit too slow, and it just drags, and it's just there's drama, and then there's just like
melodrama.
Yeah.
No, this for me it worked. I mean, but then again, I understand this is one of those things as well where I think gender plays a role in how you see suffragette. I think in a strange way suffragette might work better for men than women because men simply know less about it. We're generally a more ignorant gender on the subject. So maybe that's it.
Yeah, but you got to remember, I'm not your typical woman.
That is very true, Zehra. No one is ever calling you the typical woman. I'll give you that. But so 6:50, film 4, Thursday night. That is Suffragette. I think we're seeing just for Meryl as Emmeline Pankhurst. I mean, how could you possibly go wrong with that bit of casting? Onto a movie that I think it's now regarded as a Stone Cold classic, but I think was taken as a bit of a mixed bag upon its initial release. On Friday night, 10:45 on BBC One. It is David Fincher's 2007 effort, and interestingly enough, I think the last role Robert Downey Jr. took on before he became Iron Man, because he still had more or less the same facial hair for it. It's Zodiac, which is, of course, the story of the infamous killer and the cartoonist, played here by Jake Gyllenhaal, who found himself one of the only people who could decipher the inane ramblings of this would-be madman.
Sergeant Mullen next.
Sergeant Paul Avery from the San Francisco Chronicle. I just want to check if you had an unsolved firearm-related homicide on Christmas and maybe one on July 4th.
You guys got one, too.
Confirmed. VPD, they confirmed the shootings.
Al's on the phone with the Examiner. They got the same letter with a different code.
So the Times Herald. Christmas, 2 teenagers on Lover's Lane, both the OA. David Faraday and Betty Jensen. July 4th, Darlene Farron and Michael I think it's Mayhew. Anyway, he lived. She didn't.
The murder weapons?
Ballistics. Everything he said in the letters match. I mean, I think the Times Herald is going to go with it.
The Examiner's going, but won't go front page. I say let's go front page. If he kills 12 people, it's not our fault.
Now, that would obviously be a lot quicker and less of a debate, I think, if you did that in a modern newsroom. They wouldn't think twice about endangering lives through publishing information, would they? But, no, I mean, look at the cast on this. Okay, this is just some of the cast, right? Yeah. Just within like 5 seconds. Jake Gyllenhaal, Mark Ruffalo, Anthony Edwards, Robert Downey Jr., Brian Cox, John Carroll Lynch, Chloe Sevigny. I think Elias Koteas was the sergeant on the phone at the beginning of that. The cast list on this one goes on and on, but I think this was meant to be David Fincher's big, dramatic period piece epic. It's just, I think, proved a bit dry for some people. It did for me. Did it for you as well?
Yeah, I did find it, again, another one that's quite slow. I don't actually ever remember seeing all of it in its entirety. I remember, because I didn't see it in the cinema, I know I've seen it at home, and I remember seeing probably the first half an hour, probably fell asleep in the middle, woke up for the end.
I think I remember an idiot friend of mine say, well, of course you didn't like it, there's no spaceships in it. To which my immediate response is, one of my favourite movies is Clerks, you dumbass. But never mind. Okay, so Friday night, 10:45 on BBC One, Zodiac, which I will admit I have softened on over time. I saw it again recently, and I actually think I've revised my opinion now, so actually very, very good. So if you've spent as many years watching Robert Downey Jr. in detail as I have, there's some interesting things to note regarding his performance in this as well that come into play in the later Iron Man movies. But I actually think quite an interesting movie that in our day and age now, in which we are so much more accustomed to true crime dramas and procedurals and things like Mindhunter and things like that, this plays a lot better than it did 13 years ago.
Yeah, I'll have to revisit that soon, because I haven't seen it for at least a couple of years.
Well, there you go. 11:15, Friday night on BBC One. Give it a shot. Welcome back for one last ride on Off Screen. This time, we're going shiny discs. It's DVD and Blu-ray. We'll follow up with some streaming, but we'll get you some discs first. On home release from Monday, 7th of September, we've got 2 titles. One animated, one live action. Which is better? I think the first. So it's Superman, Man of Tomorrow, new animated effort from the Warner's DC animated label. This is... Now, I thought this was an original story, and I'm reliably told by Calvin Prickett this is loosely based on the story Superman, American Alien by none other than Max Landis, but don't hold that against it because it's actually not bad. So this sees Darren Criss, who I think is from Glee, isn't he? He's Kurt's boyfriend in Glee, whose name escapes me, who plays Superman in this incarnation. Zachary Quinto is Lex Luthor, and Alexander Daddario is the voice of Lois Lane. Although most interesting to me, Clark's parents in this, so Jonathan and Martha Kent, are played by none other than Neil Flynn, a.k.a. the janitor from Scrubs, and Bellamy Young, a.k.a. the best part of the TV series Scandal. She played Melly Grant in Scandal, who was easily my best character. My favourite character, easily the best character. The story here is it's effectively Superman's first adventure. I think of it as sort of alternate Gen Y, Gen Z or Gen Y, whatever, pilot for Lois and Clark, if you will. But in this version, the antagonistic threat is both Lobo, the intergalactic bounty hunter, and the villain Parasite, who I thought was a Green Lantern villain, but I guess maybe I'm wrong. And it is about Superman sort of, you know, how he gets the suit and how he sort of comes out to the world and basically has to face a villain who feeds on both the memories, life force, and abilities of every person he comes into, which obviously creates an issue when he comes into contact with Superman, Lobo, and the Martian Manhunter, of all people. We've not got a clip for it, but I thought this was really good. A tight 86 minutes, you know, animated romp. The animation is sort of reminiscent of All-Star Superman, if anyone's ever read that, which I thought was very good. And also, that got its own animated movie a while back as well. There's quite a bit going for it. If you've got kids who are sort of recently into, you know, comic book movies and comic book superheroes and things like that, this is a pretty good early Superman adventure to get them into. And it skews quite young as well. As with all of these things, I think it's rated 12, so there's always there's those two token, you know, curse bombs, I think the S-bombs in this case, both of which come from Lobo. It's almost like they're gearing us up for a live-action film in some way. But I do think worth checking it. It's out on digital already, but you can get it on DVD and Blu-ray from Monday, as well as a movie that you're actually more familiar with, Miss Phelan. It's none other than Love, Sarah. Do you remember seeing this a while back?
Oh, you've actually stopped waxing lyrical about that film. I had to actually look it up again, and I was like, "Oh, I have seen this film. Completely forgot about it. It's that memorable."
This is the cake shop one, the bakery one, isn't it? So this this stars Celia Imrie, doesn't it? As this is effectively the story of two young women who have partnered up to launch a bakery. You've got the one who's actually the baker and the one who's the business mind. The baker is unfortunately killed in the opening credits, and it's left to the business mind to get the bakery going on her own. And Celia Imrie turns in as the deceased's aunt/surrogate mother. And of course, you've got none other than Rupert Penry Jones as the would-be hunk/baker. Let's have a clip that sets the tone before we get into just how hunky Rupert Penry Jones really is.
I'm here about the baking job. It's a rose macaron filled with rose petal and lychee cremure and fresh raspberries.
The batter's undermixed.
Sorry?
Not by much, but it could do with a few more folds.
There are 4 other bakers. What makes you so special?
Why don't you try one? Tell me.
Good luck.
Here we go. Wow, crowds. This city is home to people from all over the place. We make our bakery something to remind them of home.
You were her best friend. If anyone can put her spirit into this, it's you. So you're going to join me or what?
She does join him. Spoiler alert. I mean, that's like a third of the way through the movie. He's Rupert Penry Jones. Who wouldn't? He's a hunky man. He's got some swarth going for him, you know? Bit of swoon. I'm just a really big Spooks fan. I don't think the film is great, but it's got just enough charm to basically hold it together. I mean, it is what it is. It's, you know, a neat British, you know, dramedy, as it were, about a bakery. Well, it's got Celia Imrie in it. You know, it kind of does what it says on the tin, really.
It's supposed to be that feel-good Sunday afternoon kind of film, isn't it? And Rupert, he just reminds me of a younger version of Paul Bettany.
You think young Paul Bettany, really?
Yeah, in Wimbledon. Do you remember Wimbledon?
Oh, yeah, actually, you know, now that you're saying Wimbledon, yeah, I can see that, actually, now. Although I think Rupert Penry Jones, I think he's a sexier man than Paul Bettany, but I'm sure everyone in the world would agree with me somehow. But so let's move on to streaming then. So neither of us have seen this. This is going to be out on Netflix next Thursday. I mean, we've put these in the wrong order, it's worth noting. But on Netflix next Thursday, 10th of September, a sequel to a movie I really loved, and I'm shocked to say is the best movie McG has ever directed. It was The Babysitter, and we've now got the sequel, The Babysitter Killer Queen. Did you see The Babysitter? Was it 3-4 years ago? Did you see The Babysitter?
Nope. And I stayed clear. No, I stayed clear of it on purpose.
Did you? Is it by any chance, is that because it stars Bella Thorne? Because I can absolutely understand that after like the past week. I think everyone's going to stay clear of Bella Thorne as often as possible.
Bella Thorne is always top of my list to stay clear of, so yes. Sorry.
I think so. But of course, The Babysitter was the story of a sort of tweenage boy who's sexy as hell babysitter, played by Samara Weaving, and that was the movie that made me absolutely fall in love with Sam Weaving. Basically, he had a massive crush on Samara Weaving, because what teenage boy wouldn't, only to discover that she and her friends were members of a satanic cult who were going to sacrifice him. Of course, obviously they didn't, because there's a sequel, and they were all killed. We've now got a sequel in which they're back, only now they're undead, and they're trying it all over again. It's worth noting the trailers do stay away from showing you Samara Weaving's return, although she is credited on this, and we do hear her voice in the trailer, so we shall see. I can't help but notice, though, that there's a lot more Robbie Amell and Bella Thorne, so a bit of a Duff reunion going on there, which is okay in my books, even though it's Bella Thorne, who I can't stand, and I'm pretty sure after the events of the past week, most of the adult entertainment industry can't stand either. But that is going to be on Netflix Thursday the 10th. Hopefully we'll review that next week as well. But in the meanwhile, on Amazon this next week, on Amazon on Saturday, in fact, on Saturday the 5th, 2 movies that I thought were very good. We've got Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, up first, which is, of course, it wasn't exactly a quick sequel to Jumanji. I think it took, 21 years to get a sequel to Jumanji? And it took the likes of Dwayne Johnson, Kevin Hart, Karen Gillan, Jack Black, and Rhys Darby, of all people, to bring it back. This time, the board game that started it all has turned into a video game, because as the opening credits of the movie brilliantly demonstrate, and it's kind of a brilliant idea for a reboot, when kids aren't interested in board games anymore, the game has to adapt itself to lure them in, so it becomes a video game cartridge that then sucks characters, it sucks its victims into the game, into the world of Jumanji, basically where Robin Williams was stuck for all those years, as their avatars that they choose at the beginning of the video game. So you'll hear that aptly demonstrated by none other than The Rock himself, right here.
You're telling me that you're Spencer?
Yes, that's it. Fridge, I'm Spencer, which means you're Moose Finbar. It says it right there on your vest. And Martha?
Yeah.
You're Ruby Roundhouse. And Bethany, you're Professor Shelley Oberon. Only Shelley must be short for Sheldon.
What are you talking about? Oh my god, he's right.
And you're Spencer? You?
Yes, guys, I'm telling you. I am Spencer. I'm Spencer.
Yep, that's Spencer.
So what did you think of Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, Zehra?
I absolutely loved this. I remember it coming out just before Christmas in 2017. Whether I was filled with the Christmas spirit, I don't know, but it's so much fun.
Well, it beats the following Christmas when we saw Cats.
Oh, God, dear God. Don't even go there. I'm still having nightmares.
So go on, you were saying about the cast. I think they're a great cast.
Yeah, they're a great cast. I mean, absolutely hilarious. Jack Black was the woman, wasn't he?
That was the gag in the first one. In fact, he's so good in this that there's a sequence in which they literally hold the camera on his face as he's peeing, and it's one of the funniest things you'll see in a movie that year. Just the things he comes out with, because there's got to be so much ad-libbing in this between Kevin Hart and Jack Black. You know there's a lot of ad-libbing. It's so funny.
It's so funny. I mean, the writers have got the slapstick humour just spot on. It's crude, it can be rude, it's fantastic. It's good fun.
I think it's a brilliant reinvention. I don't think the sequel's quite as good. I mean, the sequel's fine, but I don't think it's as good. I think it's a brilliant change of pace for Dwayne Johnson as well, who seems to work better in movies, I think, when he's sending up his own image, when he's sort of playing on the fact that he is a muscle-bound, mountain of a man. What is it they call him in Hobbs and Shaw? They call him Mountain of a Man, I think they call him.
Something like that. But he works really well with Kevin Hart as well. Him and Kevin Hart are a perfect comedy duo.
They really are. And they followed this up, I think, with Central Intelligence before they then went on to do Jumanji: The Next Level, because for some reason every Jumanji sequel has to have its title taken from an alternative title for another movie. Can't figure that one out. But worth checking out. Definitely one to watch for the whole family as well. Less so than our other pick on Amazon Prime that day, which is, of course, Bombshell. The story of the effectively the early Me Too scandal at Fox News, starring Charlize Theron, Nicole Kidman, and Margot Robbie. We saw this together, you and I, didn't we, at the multimedia screening last year, I think?
Yeah, last year. Yeah, we did. I mean, Charlize Theron in this is just like, I didn't even know it was her. She was completely
That's it. Everyone says that. They didn't recognise, yeah.
Yeah, but that was probably the only interesting part about the whole film. I wanted a bit more.
Did you not enjoy the film otherwise?
No, they needed more depth to it. I just don't think they touched on that Roger Earl story with any great research.
I think the focus was more put on the women of the story. In fact, I agree. But I think Adam McKay, who directed this, had directed The Big Short as well. And I think this was intended to be his feminine counterpart, I think, to that movie. Whether it's as successful as The Big Short or not is up for debate, and people do have very varying answers on that. For me, I think it works just as well. I mean, I prefer The Big Short, but that's, I think, only because The Big Short is funnier as a film. It has more of a comedic centre than this one, definitely.
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, I think so. But also, I think Bombshell kind of can't get away with pulling jokes, given how harrowing it gets at times. But, you can make up your own mind this coming Saturday, 5th of September, on Amazon Prime for your subscriber. And that closes out another week for us. How's your first time in the big chair, Binzer? You enjoyed it?
I've enjoyed it. I'm just worried about how much you talk. But, hey, next time I'll get some more words in.
I was making it easy for you. I'm trying to carry it. That's what it is. I'm trying to soften it for you. That's what it is. I told you I'd be gentle. But that's it for us then this week. So we shall return next week. In the meanwhile, with more cinematic goodness for you, stuff that's in cinemas if you want to brave it. But for the love of God, do not risk your life to see New Mutants. Like I say, there will be a special section of the Darwin Awards for anyone who dies of the coronavirus seeing an aborted X-Men finale. But in the meanwhile, Mulan is on Premier Access. Do check that out. We've got more fun to come next week. Hopefully the babysitter will be amongst them. We will be talking about, hopefully we'll be talking about Bill and Ted Face the Music. If they don't shunt the release date again. On us in the following 7 days, because it changes every other day, that one. But that's it from us. In the meantime, I've been Van Connor.
And I've been Zehra Phelan. And we'll be back.